YouTuber and podcaster Ranveer Allahbadia is in serious trouble after his sexually explicit and some would say downright crass comments on the comedy show India's Got Latent. Those comments went viral. It seemed to have offended one too many people. There are multiple complaints against him in Mumbai where the show's episode was shot. There are newer cases that are being filed in different parts of the country as well. It is clear that Ranveer Allahbadia did cross a line of decency. He ventured into something that is vulgar and straight up obscene. But the big question is, yes, it might be immoral. Yes, a lot of people may have taken offense to what he said, but is it illegal? Did he break the law of the land? What defines that legal line that separates decency from obscenity? At the end of the day, yes, there is a lot of outrage on television, on Twitter, but once this storm passes, what will be the future of such content regulation on platforms like YouTube? Right now, YouTube continues to host this set portions of the show, which seems to have offended a lot of people. What may be the way and the manner in which to deal with such offensive content and whether it needs to be taken down? Who makes that decision? And is there a mechanism in place should there be a new law? We'll get into all of that through the course of the next few minutes. But first, I want to bring you straight up to speed with what is it that he said that seems to have outraged one too many people.
My comment wasn't just inappropriate, it wasn't even funny. Comedy is not my forte. I'm just here to say sorry. Many of you asked if this is how I wish to use my platform, and obviously this is not how I wish to use it. I personally had a lapse in judgment. It wasn't cool on my part. I've asked the makers of the video to remove the insensitive sections from the video. And all I can say in the end is, I'm sorry. I hope you can forgive me as a human being.
So that was his apology in the wake of this raging controversy. The question, though, which is on everybody's mind is Ranveer Allahbadia due to face legal action? Like I said, several complaints have been filed against him, some in Mumbai, some in other parts of the country. None of those complaints, up until now, have been registered into an FIR. He could face severe repercussions under Section 316 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which is the new penal code. This is for obscene acts in public. This, if you were to be charged with this, then that would be imprisonment for up to 3 months, a fine, or both. There's also Section 80 of the BNS, which criminalizes words, gestures, or even acts which are intended to insult the modesty of a woman. If the act is proven to be intentional and offensive, it could lead to imprisonment of up to 3 years, a fine, or both. There's also Section 67 of the Information Technology Act, which penalizes the publication or the transmission of such obscene material in electronic form, which applies to YouTube content or any social media platform that is hosting this content. That provision too attracts a jail term of up to 3 years. But what about the platforms that host this content? Because at the end of the day, Ranveer Allahbadia is the product, or he's the messenger. But the platform and the message is still up on the platform, which in this case happens to be YouTube. Well, the central government has now taken cognizance, top sources have told CNN News 18, that the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology is likely to initiate action against social media platforms, and the Joint Secretary in the ministry has been given instructions to take further action against the platform. Furthermore, the action will be based on information technology rules and not content creation freedom, as self-regulation is necessary just as freedom of speech. Meanwhile, like I said, it's not just in Mumbai. There are now other parts of the country too where a police case seems to be registered against Ranveer Allahbadia as well as others who took part in the show. Himanta Biswa Sarma, the Chief Minister of Assam, has just tweeted that the Guwahati police has registered an FIR against certain YouTubers and social influencers for promoting obscenity and engaging in sexually explicit and vulgar discussion in the show titled India's Got Latent. This is the tweet that's been put out by the Chief Minister of Assam, Mr. Himanta Biswa. So clearly, there's a lot of trouble, legal trouble, police complaints, which are now getting converted into FIRs against Ranveer Allahbadia as well as other participants in that show. Let me go across to Pallavi Ghosh, who has more details on this. Pallavi, so one more, this case now being filed in Guwahati. Take us through what are the details of this case and what sections have been applied in this particular instance.
So as you just pointed out, Zaka, the Bharat Nyaya Sanhita has very stringent rules on those kind of provisions where anyone is found or any platform is found misusing it, where it can hurt the sensitivities of the people, which can provoke a particular emotion or narrative, which could endanger the entire fabric of the country. And it's not just the Bharat Nyaya Sanhita. It's the ministry also which can take a very important action, because if the ministry recommends that firm action needs to be taken, then it could possibly be taken. But also, Zaka, the important point over here is, contrary to the public perception that action can only be taken against the performers or the show, that's not entirely true. The platforms which provide him that platform cannot get away by saying, oh, we did not produce this show and we've got nothing to do with it. Actually, YouTube and other social media platforms, Instagram, for example, or Meta products, if they are providing a platform for this show, then they are also going to be held equally culpable. The IT rules of the IT ministry are extremely clear on this. That's what we have been told by top government sources. And therefore, at the Joint Secretary level, it has been decided that whatever further action needs to be taken within the ambit of the IT rules. And also the clarification is that it is not in any way compromising content creation, the right of free speech and content creation. It is only that you have to follow the IT rules and respect the sensitivities of the people.
All right, Pallavi Ghosh, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining us on Brass Tacks. All right, so have comedians in the name of dank comedy gone too far? Is the law being applied in a strict manner, or should there be some kind of a guideline that is put in place, both for the performers as well as, of course, for the publishers, the platforms that carry this content? Let me now go across to Mr. Vikas Singh, former Additional Solicitor General, also Senior Advocate at the Supreme Court. Thank you very much, sir. I'll start first with the application of the law by the Mumbai Police. There are multiple FIRs. They have charged so far, I believe, the performers who were there, including Ranveer Allahbadia, for what they believe is obscene content. Do you believe that the law has been applied fairly in this case, that in a country like India, you need to have lines which particularly public performers cannot cross?
So, Zaka, we have to look at the law in contradistinction to the fundamental right of free speech. And being a robust democracy, we have always advocated free speech in our country. And if I were to say that anything which a comedian says, because the purpose is comedy, it can never be said to be violative of anybody's sensibilities or result in a FIR. There are actually guidelines of 2021 under the Information Technology Act, where there are methods of controlling something offensive which is placed in the public platform. And a public platform has been defined to be a platform which has more than 50 lakh users, which is like a Twitter or a Instagram or a Facebook or a YouTube will clearly qualify as a significant intermediary, and which has a huge amount of responsibility to ensure what goes on its platform. But that will be only a material which should be either creating serious disharmony or spreading false information, especially when in a thing like a Kumbh Mela, if there is an accident and if people try to exaggerate things and say that something much more has happened than what actually has happened and try to create some kind of a fear amongst the general public, that's something which is to be seriously looked at. But to charge any comedian for saying whatever, I mean, I remember once the House of Lords, there was a case in the papers where it said, the members of the House of Lords, they said, the front page said, 3 old fools. And somebody rushed to the court the next day and said that this is something which is blasphemy and this should be hauled up in contempt.
Okay.
He said old is a matter of fact and fool is a matter of opinion. So I don't see why we should also not have the same kind of, very broad outlook as far as whatever a comedian says is concerned.
The sections of the BNS that have been applied in this case are BNS Section 316, which is obscene acts or songs in public, BNS Section 80, which is insulting the modesty of a woman, Section 67 of the IT Act, which is obscene material in a digital form. You are saying that it is your considered opinion that these lines have not been crossed? I mean, what defines, at least legally speaking, forget about the morality or the immorality of it, But legally speaking, what would constitute a crossing of that line, the line of obscenity?
So, Zaka, crossing of the line would be if the whatever is being said is targeted to malign somebody individually, or to malign a particular class. So, for instance, if women are to be maligned as a class because they are women, that can be said to be something of that nature. But if a comedian is taking, I don't know what exactly is the content of this show, which is the subject matter of this debate, but from what I can get on the basis of whatever is there on the public platform, I don't think these are something which is trying to target somebody. And when you say target somebody, then there should be somebody who should be aggrieved of that targeting. And it is only when somebody is aggrieved of that targeting that a case can lie of these sections. So according to me, simply because somebody has said something in the public platform, if there is nobody aggrieved. If you recall, there was a case in the Supreme Court which questioned the Sardar jokes.
Yeah.
And the bench of the Supreme Court actually wanted to examine whether there should be a ban on Sardar jokes. But they ultimately, I think it's still pending there. But I think they prima facie took the view that joke is a joke. I mean, you can't take it personally on a joke, and you can't react on a joke like this. And that is where the society is becoming a little intolerant. And that intolerance is not to be reflected in the law enforcement agencies. It should be law enforcement agencies should have that same broad outlook of only getting into very serious issues of where people are targeting somebody, or somebody's sensibilities are being so outrageously shocked that you cannot tolerate what is being said in the public domain.
Okay.
But otherwise, I don't think simpliciter, because a comedian says something, it can be said to be.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Mr. Vikas Singh, for joining us and putting that issue into legal perspective. The bar needs to be set higher as far as the law is concerned. Thank you very much for joining us.